Let's talk.
Giles Brown.
This morning I got something rather special because Baroness Sue Campbell has written a book called The Game Changer, Lessons from the Woman Who Transformed Sport. She's had somewhat of a busy morning this morning, to put it mildly, because I just sort of flicked on in the studio, I flicked on to see what was happening worldwide, and there she was. So I'm delighted to say that joining me, taking a quick break from the other media, is Baroness Sue Campbell. Baroness, good morning to you.
Good morning.
And just explain, because you just said you've done Sky, you've done Radio 5, you've done Today programme, so a bit of a hectic morning for you this morning.
Yes, but all good. An opportunity to talk about my passion for girls and women's sport, but also obviously to promote the book. So yeah.
Now, you see, if you are somebody like myself who was born in the 60s and grew up in the 70s and 80s and pretty much the 90s, sport, indeed. Well, women's sport was kind of, I mean, there was Rachel Hayhoe, there was Hayhoe Smith, we're doing cricket, Fatima Whitbread, Tessa Sanderson, and that was sort of, those were maybe the main, women's sport was looked at as sort of second division, as to being front and centre as it is now with the Lionesses. It's been quite a remarkable transformation, but still so much to be done.
Yeah, there is still a lot to do. But you're right. I mean, I grew up in that era and, and I played football with the boys in the street, as you can imagine, as a youngster. But when I went to school, I was told that they didn't do football for girls. So I ended up playing netball and hockey and represented England in netball. And, in those days, there was no opportunity to play a game professionally or to coach full time. So, I became a PE teacher because that was, in a way, the one outlet if you wanted to be involved in sport that you had.
Yeah.
But yes, you're right. I mean, the transformation over the last, certainly 20 years has been incredible, but still such a long way to go. I
mean, you're a PE teacher in Moss Side, and if you know Manchester, you know Moss Side, so therefore that must have been quite an interesting, and I put that in inverted commas, experience, to put it mildly.
It was, but in a funny way, I thank that experience because in many ways that's where my mission, my passion was born. Up until that point, I was just a sporty kid who'd, followed her sport dream, and yes, I'd gone on to be a PE teacher. But when I got to Moss Side, the girls didn't want to do the things I wanted to do. I thought my job was to teach netball and football and netball and hockey and athletics and tennis. And the girls were not into that. These were young women many of whom were already earning their living on the streets of Manchester. But what happened in that time was I did some good listening to what they really wanted. And together with them, I think what I realised was if you listened well and you provided an opportunity that worked for them, that you could change their self-esteem, their self-worth, their feelings of being valued. And I watched how sport really changed their lives. And that had a huge impact on me because I realised not only was sport about the pursuit of excellence, but used in the right way, it could change the lives of millions of young women.
Because I'm a rugby boy. I'm a rugby union boy. That's been my sport. I mean, my father was a professional racing driver, but that doesn't sort of teach many people apart from going very quickly. But there's the thing with sport is it teaches you how to. It's so much more than on the what happens on the pitch is what happens off the pitch. And I'm talking primarily males here because it's because of my generation, but boxing as well. I mean, it's a well-known thing about boxing instilling discipline. We can have the conversation about. Is it, both those sports being contact sports, to put it mildly, there are some qualms now. But, sport for girls was kind of seen as a thing that wasn't really a thing. And it was sort of sweaty gym kits and, ill-fitting plimsolls and that sort of thing. But, it does teach you that, you do get a worth from doing sport in ways that you might not have imagined, when you first step onto either the mat or the court or whatever sport it is you're doing.
Yeah, I think for girls particularly, particularly in the present era where social media tells them that they're meant to look a certain way and behave a certain way, I think sport can liberate them from that and can help them be proud of who they are. And certainly, as you say, a lot of other skills. I mean, where did I learn leadership skills? Where did I learn communication skills? Where did I learn to build and work effectively with teams in business? That's all the leadership stuff that's in the book came through sport. So I think we underestimate the power of sport in so many ways. One, just to help people feel worthy and good about themselves, but secondly, to develop some of those skills which are absolutely priceless in life in terms of helping you progress and develop no matter what you want to do, whether you want to work in sport, you want to be an astronaut.
Yeah. I mean, well, the other thing is it teaches us, I think, is one of the problems that we have, two things here. One is the ridiculous amount of dropout that we have of women or girls get to a certain age and they drop out of sport, even though and they got to keep going, because that's the one thing. And that the keep going thing, because, we can say it teaches you, empowerment and worth, and you discover things. But one of the things you do discover, as one who has sat sort of quietly sobbing to myself on a touchline on a wet Wednesday, that it's not all, it's because we live in a society where the quick fix comes in. And the thing about sports is you're not going to win every match. It's going to hurt. It's, no matter sport, you're going to get an injury at some point if you play any sport, but it allows you to dig deep, and then that makes any victories, personal or team, so much sweeter.
Yeah, I think resilience is something people talk a lot about, don't they? And one of the things during my sort of career is, I've been involved in large organisations like UK Sport, redesigning the investment in our Olympic and Paralympic teams, been director of women's football at the FA. Those are not easy journeys. They are tough journeys. And you have to be very resilient and strong to keep coming back after all the pushbacks and the pressure and sometimes the failures of what you're trying to do. And I learned so much of that through sport as well. And what you have to think about in sport is it's the goal, it's the end goal. So, in business, it's not the immediate back push or the failure that you have. It's your ability to keep refocusing on the mission and driving forward. So resilience for me is about really understanding the mission, the goal, the purpose of what you're doing. And it allows you to bounce back. So I think sport is brilliant in building that resilience into people.
When you look at sort of stuff that comes out from the health associations, doctors report saying there's an obesity problem here. And again, people order in food. People don't go out their front doors. Like it or lump it, a lot of us are becoming more sedentary. We're not moving like we should do. You were on board with London's Olympics. I was sceptical about London's Olympics. I thought this will never work. And blimey, O'Reilly did it ever. And it seems like a lifetime ago now. But it embraced the Olympic idea in a way that was quite something. And hopefully that's had a long-term effect. And also, the Lionesses had suddenly went from being, I put it, Euro 96 was the time that football went from the terraces and hooligans into becoming embraced after Italia 90. Euro 96 really made it an all-inclusive sport, but the Lionesses put women's football front and centre, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And what was such a thrill for me was not just the performance on the field of play, which was just, exceptional. And we have to mention Serena Wiedmann here as the coach, who did an extraordinary job. But it was their determination to make sure there was a legacy from that. They on the bus the day after we'd won the Euros, when we'd had a party that night, as you can imagine. So we were not all together well. We were sitting on the bus going to the celebration event at Trafalgar Square, and Leah, the captain of England, and Lotta Woburn-Moy tapped me on the shoulder, and I thought, oh gosh, somebody's ill at the back of the bus. And they said, we don't just want our legacy to be winning the Euros. Imagine that, the day after you've just won the Euros. We want our legacy to be that no girl is denied the opportunity to play our sport in schools. That is pretty phenomenal. And we wrote to both Prime Ministers at the time, because there was Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. And in the end, sort of 6 months later, Rishi Sunak did announce money to really enrich football delivery in our schools and look for equality of opportunity, whether that's rugby or football or cricket. Girls should be able to play whatever sport they feel drawn to. So, you know, for me, the Euros was a wonderful landmark, not just because of the performance, but because of the way it really had an impact on legacy and the transformational impact it had on girls in terms of, 87,000 were in the stadium and 17 million watching on television. That was a huge moment for women's sport.
Yeah, but it has a knock-on effect as well to other sports, because suddenly you're getting, WSL on Sky News, and you're getting pictures of grounds that used to be literally you could hear sort of like half a dozen supporters and the dog, and suddenly you're getting that. I mean, I'm sitting here in Spain. You get the Clásico in the female Clásico because they have world champions. Despite everything else that happened, they did actually win the World Cup. Spain. You wouldn't have thought it because of what happened after. Yes, yeah. No,
it was a real shame. But anyway, yeah.
But away from that, at the Real Madrid Barcelona, we've got 96,000 people watching women's sport, and that would have been again in our lifetimes that would have been impossible to comprehend.
Unthinkable.
Yes.
Yeah, it would. And that's obviously something we're all very proud of. And I think one of the things that's important is that the women's games, whether that's rugby or football or cricket, must grow in its own light. It's not about copying what men have done. It's about recognising that the women are elite women athletes, players, that the fans are different. I mean, only 20% of the fans that watch women's football in this country watch men's. So that means 80% are new. They're new people, and they're coming for a very different reason. And the culture of the games is more family friendly, much more open. So there's a lot of great things about women's sport that we want to make sure we keep and we retain as it grows, both commercially and in every other way in terms of broadcast. We want to make sure we don't lose the very essence of the women's game.
Because that's one of the things, isn't it? Because there isn't the tribalism that perhaps has been is a straitjacket on the men's game. You only have to look, what happened at the men's finals and the fact that the women's game and in the hard world of business, family friendly, great day out, approachable. Girls can identify with their heroes on the pitch because they're not swanning around in Bentleys and normally not getting tattoos, and falling out of nightclubs, or not that we see anyway. So that connection between, because every little boy wants to be David Beckham, but actually when you go to a football match and you see the whole men's football match, there may be a bit disconnect, whereas with the women's game and any women's sport there's that immediate connection.
Yeah, there's a sort of authenticity with the women still, and I hope we can retain that. They don't feel like they believe they're privileged to play for their country, but they don't feel like privileged people in society. They still are very connected to their roots. They want to play their part in growing the women's game. You talk to any of the women who are playing in any of the sports we've talked about, and they're incredibly committed to get more girls active, to get more girls playing. There's a huge power in this that we really haven't still unleashed. Mm-hmm. If all of us in the sort of senior ranks of the women's games, netball, hockey, rugby, cricket, football, get ourselves together, I think we have something very special that we can offer in terms of affecting girls and women's chances in life and helping with female health issues, which are massive.
Yeah. Indeed. I'm going to drop the W word in here, so please bear with me, Baroness, because you see, I've interviewed Alphonse, the female, the champion England's women rugby captain, and people go, "Oh God, you've got a woman." It's the Six Nations. Why is there a woman on there? And again, my passion is F1, and I've interviewed the great Jenny Gow, for example, female commentator, and they've had the W series for women, and people go, "Oh, you'll get that backlash going, oh, it's diversity. It's not, they don't know what's going on. Women shouldn't be able to commentate on men's football." I mean, without completely going off the rails, Baroness, what's your comeback to that one?
Look, I think we've had men commentating on women's sport for many years, and I think a lot of our women commentators, just like the men, there are a majority of them are very well informed. They do a lot of their homework. They know the sport inside out. They know the players, and they understand the game very, very clearly and very well. Of course, there are going to be occasionally men and occasionally women that know less and are not perhaps as good. But that's for the broadcasters to determine, not us. But overall, I think we've done an amazing job in terms of involving women in broadcast, and I think they do a terrific job, whether that's cricket, rugby or football, and we should be recognising that the century we're now living in, there should be no barriers, there should be no lines that say you can and you can't do things. Girls and women should be able to do whatever they want to do, and if they're competent and good at their job, so be it. We should celebrate that, not bemoan it.
I want to go back to just quickly, because I know you haven't got a lot of time, Baroness, but just quickly, because you mentioned something that I almost passed over there, but nothing exists in a vacuum, okay? Nothing exists in a vacuum. And people can go, it's just sport. But you said, but it's much more than sport. It doesn't matter what sport you play. It's women's health issues. And, as a male, people go, oh, God, women's health issues. Oh, God, I'll get all squeamish. But these are issues that need to be tackled. I mean, we had the whole thing with white shorts a while back again. And the girls were saying, we don't want to play with this because of certain times of the month. It's a little bit embarrassing for us. We don't have to have it in the back of our mind. But, you can link sport with so many issues, be it health issues, be it franchising, franchise issues, whatever. In terms of, it's not just about sport. Sport is a means of communication and a way of bringing us all together, no matter if we're straight, queer, female, black, whatever, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, sport for me should be a reflection of the best of society. It doesn't always hold up to those values, but that's what it should be. And in and through sport, we should be empowering people. And certainly for girls and women, the health issues are major. They have different physiological makeup. And instead of being embarrassed by it, we should be working with girls. You talked about the big dropout. Yeah. So much of the dropout of girls is because they go through puberty, their body changes shape, they start their menstrual cycle, and now they start to feel really uncomfortable about moving and being physical. We should be supporting girls through that process, encouraging them to recognise that activity actually helps with all of those things. And certainly the sport I've just become chair of England Netball. We've got a programme called Netball Her, which looks at all of the health issues right from the beginning of sport, right through to our women playing netball who are challenged by menopause. Sport can help with everything. It's just we've never really given it that profile. It's sort of been profiled as winning and losing on the field of play, but for me, it's a massive vehicle to affect real change in society. Can
I just say something about netball? Because you do that.
Do.
Because it is a sport, and I didn't play netball because I'm 5 foot something, nothing basically, and at my grammar school we didn't as boys, but we have netball down here, a women's a women's netball league played by women who are, shall I say, kindly over the age of 25, and my goodness, they give it, and they're a lot of men in their 40s and 50s, but my goodness, they give it 10/10.
Well, we've got, 3 million girls and women are playing netball, and we've got an awful lot of grown-up adult women, even those more than over 25, over 50, who are doing walking netball and come back, many of them coming back to netball, having played it at school and then not played for years. It's a wonderful place for women to come together, to enjoy each other's company, to take some physical activity, and if they've got health issues, for us to support and help them through those. It's a fantastic opportunity for girls and women to get together and feel safe in a safe space.
So So what are you hoping that people are going to take from the Game Changer? Is it to say, use sport, but also sort of the lessons learned? So, work out who's important to you, and even yourself, you can, because your example can maybe help. And I don't know yours, Baroness, but obviously it does. But even if I decide to start doing a sport, then somebody else might say, I've always fancied doing lacrosse or something. Good grief. Mm-hmm. That sort of, is that what you're saying? Just those little steps and it can make a change.
Yeah, there's two things, I think. One is, nothing extraordinary about me. I'm just a very ordinary young woman that had a passion for sport. I wasn't a particularly clever girl academically. And I've had the most incredible career because I've believed in something so passionately and followed it with all my heart and all my energy and put a lot of time and work in. And I've had my setbacks. So I hope on the one hand, it's a book that shows what leadership I'd learned through that process, but also that inspires girls and boys to realise that if they have a dream, if they have a passion, anything is possible. And they shouldn't feel that they can't. And the first time they push back, don't worry about that. We all get that. Come back and do it again. So, yeah, I'm hoping it inspires lots of young women to get involved in sport, try something, go and have a go, enjoy it, but also to be the best they can be in life.
Last question for you today, Baroness. We've got a summer of sport. I mean, you'll be happy to know it's absolutely persisting with rain down here on the Costa del Sol in Marbella. But
it's beautiful here today.
Exactly. Fine. So it's a beautiful summer, and there's nothing like an English summer of sport. I know we're just in March, but it's starting to start to ramp up. Yeah, like I said, you will be on other, as the saying goes, other media outlets are available. We've got. What are you looking for? And you talked about this morning. So what are you looking forward to in this summer of especially women's sport?
Well, obviously the Women's Euros, I'm really excited about that, but I'm also excited about the Women's Rugby, and hopefully we'll see a resurgence of the Women's Cricket team this summer. They've obviously had to go away and do some thinking, but, they've done so well in the past. So, I'm looking forward to hopefully success. But most of all, to inspire lots of girls to want to play and to be involved in these different sports once they've seen that moment. At the Euros, sitting there looking around me, I remember thinking, gosh, how many people have we inspired today? And I hope this summer is a real opportunity to inspire lots of girls and to help them feel proud, no matter how they look, what they want in their lives, that they can do it, they can achieve it.
The book is called The Game Changer: Lessons from the Woman Who Transformed Sport, and it's got a David Beckham on the thing on the front page saying Sue's passion for sport in this country is unmatched. You could all that must be quite nice from Becks himself, mustn't it?
I've known him for quite a long time. I was very, very helpful in helping us win the bid for the London 2012 Olympics, and I've known him since those days.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. The book is called The Game Changer. You can order it via our own virtual bookstore. It is by Baroness Sue Campbell. Baroness, thank you so much for your time today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for the interest.